don't know if I ever really actually figured out I was going to be a record producer. At University of Wisconsin in Madison, I remember going into the music store and I see this thing with some knobs on it and it looks like a cassette player or whatever. And I say, "What's this?" He says, "Oh, it's a multi-track recorder." I'm like, "So what does that do?" He says, "Well, you can record something and then you can record again and hear them together." I had to have it. So I took my rent money and I bought the Porta 1. And I started making songs and on this Porta 1. That's what I did, playing around for the rest of college until I, graduated, and I was working at the family restaurant down on the south side of Chicago there, and hating it, but just decided, man, I really loved recording. So I tried to figure out a way to maybe do that. I'm like, maybe I can do that for a living. So saved my money and I bought a full-on, recording board, not an expensive one, and I bought a 2-inch Tascam tape recorder and I started learning how to use it. And then really it was a decision, a life decision. I love doing this. I hate working at the restaurant. I think I'm gonna try this. And then it took me a while to I didn't go to school for engineering or recording or anything. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I just started figuring it out on my own. And probably a year later, I started actually making demos for bands. A band, Loudmouth, I was recording and trying to get them going, and they had a song called Fly, and they did the record in LA, but it was actually the demo that went on a soundtrack that went gold. So, eventually I thought, well, I'd have to move to the city to pick up the business, and I started trying to build, a proper studio. Within a year of getting that studio open, I had discovered Disturbed and did their demos there at that studio, and they liked the sound of their demos, and they were afraid to let the label steer them to a producer that they didn't trust. I was able to get my first real gig as a producer. And then I went on to do the next 2 Disturbed records after that, and I met Three Doors Down guys and did their record and gave them their first Billboard number 1 record. And did their next record, and and then it was rolling from there. Stained, Plain White T's, Finger 11, Megadeth, Machine Head, all these bands that came afterwards. I think if you look at my body of work, you're going to see that Disturbed doesn't sound anything even like Megadeth, even though similar genres or whatever. But I think every band has their own footprint. I think that I'm more willing to not get stuck in my way of doing things, but rather look for the way that fits the project. So that's how I've been able to do a Plain White T's record and then turn around and do a Stained record back to back. I would like to think, and I aspire to capture the band's footprint as pure as I can. I think a guitar player's style and the way he plays will kind of help direct you to picking the right amp, the right sound, the right EQ, whatever, for his guitar, how he plays, how percussive he plays, how open, what chord voicings, all those things will lead you to finding the sound that works the best for his performance. So I think it really comes down to how they perform, what kind of music they play, and then making the sound fit the best as it can for that. It's cool to work with a new band. It's a different challenge, but it's fun. I like being more of I guess you feel more like a teacher, when you're working with the band and their first time around. And I suppose when you're working with a veteran band, it's a completely different psychology, it seems. That they've been there, they've worked with other producers, they've learned things, they have their own opinions. So you're kind of just more of a team member, it seems like at that point. You're part of the crew. But what would be cooler, I think, would be to find a band that is going to be that's going to be the next U2. You know what I mean? Because U2's already had their career. What about finding, to me, finding a band that is going to become that, that unknown band, and being part of that first record or being part of that, that would be even better, I guess maybe because I had a taste of that with Disturbed, being part of that beginning. And I do occasionally, I don't have a ton of time in my schedule to develop artists as much as I'd like, but I do try to squeeze them in.